Think about the last meal you had and contemplate how much of that food was genetically modified. We frequently go to supermarkets with a preference to go fresh, rather than purchase canned foods and vegetables, because we assume it is healthier for us. But is it really? Nowadays, almost every product we consume has been genetically modified, in some form without even knowing it. If you have never questioned where your food comes from, now is the time to start questioning. As a proponent of the organic food movement and a concerned citizen, I have become more conscious about how food is produced. The pro stance on the topic suggests that there are no inherent differences between GMO foods and conventionally grown foods. However, I and other proponents think otherwise. Today I'm going to persuade you as to why GMO foods should be banned from production. For the reasons of health, environmental concerns, inability to solve world hunger, and the intention of biotech industries to monopolize the food market, GMO proliferation is overall a dangerous construct. I will urge you, the consumer, that the labeling of GMO foods and supporting organic local farmers is the most effective method to ban GMO foods from the market. Lastly, I will highlight what the consumer can do to expedite such efforts. But first, what exactly are GMOs? Genetically modified foods are the result of genetic engineering, in which DNA is extracted from one species and artificially introduced into the genes of an unrelated plant or animal. This is done in order to create more yields for the farmers and produce foods with longer shelf life. Reference from Smith-Jeffrey, GMO Education. Now, the problem with genetically modified foods is that it cannot solve the world hunger, and it poses health and environmental risks. According to Genetically Modified Foods Cannot Eliminate Hunger, McDonough, Sean, 2009, page 65, Robert Shapiro, who is the chief of leading biotechnology firm Monsanto, stated that GM crops will be necessary to feed the growing population and is the solution to food shortages. However, the real cause of hunger are really due to the factors of famine, poverty, absence of land reform, and social inequality. So the food problem is not about increasing yields, but is related to the fair distribution of food. Secondly, genetically modified foods pose health and environmental risks. Referencing genetically modified foods is not safe, Smith-Jeffrey, 2009, page 17 to 23, scientists speculate that genetically modified foods can trigger allergic, asthmatic, and inflammatory reactions in some people. In mouse studies, mice that were fed BT toxin, which is a pesticide that is genetically engineered into seeds, showed significant immune responses and sensitivity, as well as appearance of tumors. According to the environmental impact of GMOs, Glass, Emily, 2013, genetically modified crops have actually worsened the plight of chemical contamination in the environment. It is damaging the food web and potentially toxic to non-target organisms such as bees and butterflies that are beneficial pollinators of many food crops. Thus, these species are being endangered as a result. Biodiversity, which is important to sustainability of our ecosystems and species, is put at a risk by GMOs. Via cross-pollination and genetic drift, GMO DNA can essentially end up in the soil, compost, animal feed, and other living organisms. Now that we have discussed some of the major problems associated with GMO foods, let's talk about how we can potentially ban GMO foods. First of all, the most important initiative is labeling. Multiple other countries do not allow foreign substances in their foods. Why should the United States? By taking such initiative, the majority of the public will refuse to buy foods that they know to be genetically modified. This will eliminate them from the market, just the way it was done in Europe. Secondly, we need to support our local organic farmers. I would recommend purchasing certified organic products. As consumers, we have the power to learn about GMO crops on the market and not buy them at all, and move the economy in a direction from using GMO in foods. This, however, is simply the start, but we must push for mandatory labeling as aforementioned. So how can we attempt to put some of these solutions into effect? First of all, we must challenge GMO farming practices. We can do this by advocating causes such as the Organic Consumers Association, which is a grassroots lobbying group, and support their agenda. Secondly, we must get the government involved. It is imperative to implore our government leaders to do the right thing and to legislate and to vote for a bill that puts transparency to labeling on foods. Majority of the consumers do actually support this, and we need to vote out government leaders that put corporate interests over consumer needs. Now let's recap what we've learned today. We live in an era where food production is no longer natural. Today I've attempted to convince you about the dangers of GMO foods and why it should be banned. Currently, there are no labeling law requirements for GMO products in Canada and the United States. As socially responsible consumers, we must question food safety, demand that our government leaders take action to legislate the mandatory labeling of GM products, and to be sure to buy certified organic products. Roughly 60% of the food that you eat contains one or more genetically modified ingredients. The simple prospect of eating healthy has become a challenge. As a consumer, I would want to know where my food comes from. Wouldn't you? Thank you.
Yes.